Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 330.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. And I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect. But actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator.
I could retire and do that. I'm the doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Hey, Doctor Who fans, welcome back to another week. It's a big week, this one.
Exciting times.
Yeah. Doctor Who back on the TV, back on the telly box. Right?
Yes.
Back on the telly box.
It's good, isn't it? It is good to have Doctor Who back on the TV.
Oh,
nice
it's sweet.
Yeah.
It was really good as well. Twitter was all nice and friendly for the most part, and no fighting. There was no toxicity, which is really good. There was a little bit, but you'd expect that of anything. But for the most part, like nowhere near like we experienced in previous Doctor Who seasons. Yeah.
I think it was a little bit make or break, actually, really. I think because there's so many people that are just on the edge of just giving up. They're not, the ones that are not enjoying this era. And like you said, you'd think, after this first episode, that I think even those that sort of aren't enjoying it will tune into the first one just out of curiosity, if nothing else. I know one person, I'm not going to mention his name, but we both know them, that was adamant he wasn't going to watch it. I'm not watching this series. And messaged me afterwards and was like, I actually didn't enjoy it. It's like, what the hell? What a load of rubbish. But I thought, I knew you'd tune in. But I did see quite a few people that, don't like this era, but enjoyed this episode. So there did seem to be a bit of a swing, in that direction, which, as I said, that's what I mean by make or break. I think there are quite a few people like that were like, I'm going to tune in, but I know it's going to be rubbish. And then we're like, not sure. I think I quite liked that. And so, that was nice to see. Most of the stuff I saw on Twitter, which of course is the go-to Bible for any TV review, is most of the stuff I saw was quite positive. There were still some negativity, but it'd be interesting to see if we're on the same page on this one. Will we be wearing our positive T-shirts, or will it be negative ninny T-shirts? We'll see.
Will it be a disaster of epic proportions? Who knows?
Yeah. So we should get to that. Yeah.
So it is good to have Doctor Who back on the box. It's a very cool time of year. I love it when Doctor Who's on.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool for obvious reasons. So we've got a cool episode this week for you. We've got a few bits of news to talk through, which is going to be good. And then we're going to just crash straight. We're not going to waffle on for too long. We're going to crash straight into our review. Because I assume for most of you, that's why you are here. Of course. So before we crack on with all that stuff, Please remember to follow and subscribe to our show, whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box, or head over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the episodes on there for free, and you can link off to those various podcast apps and networks and whatnot. We're on all of those. So if this is your first time checking out the podcast, we often have this when there's a new series of Doctor Who. We often have an influx of new listeners for the reason of, they might be the first time they've watched the show, or they've come back to the show after years and now they want to see what fandom's talking about and so on. So we often have a bunch of new listeners. So if you are new, then we are waving to you from behind our microphones. So welcome to the Big Blue Box. And of course, if you're coming back as a long-time listener, one of the grizzled ancients, then absolutely, it's great to have you back, as always. Also on the website, you can read our reviews and articles from our awesome writing team. We had a new one that dropped yesterday from Harry in defence of the episode Midnight, and a bit of a drill down into some of the Russell T Davies storytelling stuff on that particular episode, which is very good. And we're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, links on the website. Come and check out some of the Doctor Who chat throughout the week and little tidbits of info and whatnot. And we have a free Discord server. It takes 30 seconds to sign up and jump in. Come and chat lots of Doctor Who with other Doctor Who fans. And lastly, before we crack on, remember to check out my co-host channel. Over on YouTube, it is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. I'm just working on a mega video at the moment. I say mega as in it's taken me forever, as they always do. But yes, loads of videos on my channel, mostly Doctor Who related. Go and check them out.
Check them out,
man.
Right, no waffle this week. Adam and I have been fairly quiet on that front, so we're going to bang straight into the news. So, let's do that. So first, very quick one. I know everybody's very concerned and always going on about viewing figures and all that stuff. So let's get it out of the way. So the Halloween Apocalypse, episode 1. We haven't got the what's the phrase? Is it unified or confirmed figures?
Consolidated.
Consolidated. That's the one. Yeah, where they take into account all of the figures for the week and all of the catch-up figures and all that, iPlayer stuff and all that. So the overnights initially came in at a fairly respectable 4.43 mil, which is pretty good. They did say that it's slightly down on the last season's opening figure, which was Skyfall. However, it is higher than the majority of Series 12 episodes. So this typically happens with the first episode of a new series. It always is a tad bit higher. It tapers off a little bit. So we'll see how it goes throughout the series, but pretty respectable so far to kick off. And then we have the appreciation index, the AI score, which is there's been a bit of confusion on Twitter actually over this stuff, which I saw a couple of days ago, where people were looking at this number and confusing it with the something else. So the AI, the appreciation index, is nothing to do with how many people have watched the show. This is just where the people who have watched it, and then they give it a score, which is out of 100. So the score for this one is 76, which is not too bad. So it's a measure of how much the audience enjoyed it, basically, rather than how many people viewed it. So, like I said, it's out of 100. And what they do is they have what's called, if anyone's into analytical stuff, they have something called a control group, where they basically round up 5,000 people, and then they go online and they give their thoughts and stuff like that. So the control group of people is random people. It's not just Doctor Who fans that are going to say, yes, I liked it, or yes, I hated it. It's just, general public of 5,000 peeps who have seen it. So going back then to the last series, Skyfall Part 1, that had an AI score of 82. Whereas the most recent one before this series, which was the New Year festive special, Revolution of the Daleks, that had an AI score of 79. The average score across Jodie's era is 80. So that's just an indication of how to measure this. So this one's got 76. So it feels like it's a tad bit lower than the average and the last couple of episode 1s from her last series. But still, not a bad score, though. That's not too bad.
Well, yes and no. 76, to me, it doesn't sound that bad, but apparently it's the lowest any episode has achieved since Love and Monsters. So it is low in comparison to others. But yeah, to me, 76 sounds all right. I always wondered how they actually did get these scores. Like, who do they round up, to vote for these? But yeah, to me, it's reasonable. I think 4.3 mils quite reasonable as well. I was watching this with a couple of mates on Sunday, and we were all guessing what the overnights would be. And I almost predicted this exactly. I was a bit smug the next day. I was like, that's almost exactly what I said. I was like 4.5 million, 5 at the most. And so, yeah, it's kind of where I expected it to be because of, the way the figures have been over the last couple of series. I think to put it into perspective, I think it was still, although 4.3 sounds a little bit low in general, I think that was still the second most watched program of the day. I think it was only beaten by Strictly. I think I'm right in saying that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So although 4 million sounds a little bit low, I think when you compare it to the other, overnights for other programs on the day, I think it's up there, right near the top. So yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, we'll expect a drop off next week. Like you said, the first ep always gets a bit of a boost and then drops off a little, doesn't it? So just hopefully not too much.
Yes, indeedy. And yeah, although it was absolutely awesome and amazing as always, watching the last 10 minutes of Country File and screaming at the TV like, will you just bloody put the fish back?
As well. We were like, oh, blimmin' Country File, get off.
Yeah, I was like,
overruns.
Put the bloody fish back in the sea, eat what you've got on your plate and just freaking hurry up. So yeah,
get on your tractor and get off.
Country File, surprisingly, actually that's unfair. I'm sorry, the people of Country File. I shouldn't have used that word. Shouldn't have said that. Country File normally gets a really good viewing figures. I imagine us Doctor Who fans are helping them a little bit in the last. Yeah. They just put that channel on before before Doctor Who starts, so everyone's on BBC One anyway. So I think we're helping them out a little bit. But yeah, and also these things will change slightly when we get the consolidated figures. So they normally come out. Normally on a Thursday or Friday, and then we normally talk about it the week after and stuff like that. But anyway, it's not done amazingly. It's not done terribly. Not too bad. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think respectable. Respect. I'm going to say it's respectable. I think. Yeah. In other news, we have got the title and a small synopsis for chapter 3. See, it feels weird to say that. Chapter 3. So it's going to be called, I've got to get this right, Once Upon Time. No, there's no A missing it. Once Upon Time, which of course immediately makes you think of Once Upon a Time, the Capaldi episode. But no, Once Upon Time. And the synopsis is, time is beginning to run wild. On a planet that shouldn't exist, the aftermath of apocalypse, the Doctor, Dan, Yaz and Vinda face a battle to survive. Which doesn't really tell us a lot. But there you go. That's the synopsis. And yeah, obviously part 3. So we should be sort of getting right into the thick of the story by then. So we'll be halfway through. But yeah, what do you think? It's a strange title, isn't it? Once Upon Time. Obviously a play on Once Upon a Time. What's going on there?
Yeah, it does sound quite intriguing. I think the omission of A, and then that comma. So it's like Once Upon Time. It suggests that time is a thing. It's going to be something obviously quite integral to the plot of that episode. So that sounds cool. It's something. It's going to be a timey-wimey thing, obviously, and the Flux are going to play a big part as they, because the synopsis is time is beginning to run wild. So I think something to do with the Flux or either the character Swarm. I think they're going to start messing with time streams and the Doctors, whatever. So it's very intriguing, yeah. And obviously the character Vinda, who we saw briefly in a few scenes in the first episode, is going to play a bigger part now. Clearly in this one, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It does sound intriguing, but not giving much away as usual.
No, not really. Planet that shouldn't exist. I mean, that sounds intriguing, but yeah, could be anything.
Yes. So there we go. That's chapter 3, which is coming up next week. And the last bit of news we have. This is a little follow-on from the news that's been around for a few weeks now of Russell coming back and taking over as showrunner. after Jodie and Chibbers have been ejected from the building. And it's kind of the news, it's not in itself, it's just normal stuff that TV production companies and studios and everything, they kind of go through, but nobody sort of really knows about it. It's a sort of behind the scenes thing. It's a financial thing. And it's kind of surprising to me that this has happened in the first place. And it's a sign really that BBC Studios and probably the larger execs and stuff at the BBC proper are taking Doctor Who seriously. So as part of Russell coming over to come back as showrunner, one of his stipulations apparently when he was coming up with sort of ironing out the finer details, I suppose, was that all of the production side of things is taken away from BBC Wales, who, so BBC Studios, they've handled all of the production side of things for the series since 2005. Russell has said basically that everything now, all of the production control now goes over to the company Bad Wolf, which is, the production company we spoke about a few weeks ago when the news landed. It's the company that was set up by Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter, who were producers on the original series of Who back in 2005. So they've set up this new production company, Bad Wolf, I think it was about 2 years ago now. Yeah, so Russell basically said, look, as part of this, I want everything to be in control of this external company, Bad Wolf. So what that means financially for BBC Studios or the BBC, etc., is that they could lose, and this figure's not final, but they could lose around £40 million in commercial revenue for every 10 episodes that go out of Doctor Who.
Blimey.
Now, when I first read that, I thought, wow, that's a big chunk, because they obviously rely on Doctor Who for that revenue. They rely on that heavily. So that says two things to me. The first one I thought was, well, there's probably another contract down the road where somebody's going to sign a bit of paper to say, actually, that 40 million, Bad Wolf, you're not having all of it. We'll come to an agreement that you'll have this portion, we'll allow that portion, probably. And then the other thought I had was that this is actually a good step in the direction of giving Who the production. Not to say that the production values or anything are poor now, but it basically says to me that the BBC is willing to lose money in order to give Doctor Who the decent revamp, I suppose, restructure, redo, whatever that it deserves, because they could have just done it in exactly the same way that they've always done it, where they just keep production in the same place, the same team, and there is some merit to doing that, but. If you want the show to move on and change in exactly as, the spirit of Doctor Who in terms of regeneration and stuff like that, then you've got to take risks and you've got to, give it to different people and stuff like that. So to me, dude, this is a good step forward. And I think Russell knows what he's doing as well. I think he's written enough. I think he's written and produced and overseen enough top quality TV programs over the last decade to know what he's doing, and Bad Wolf seems like a decent company, so yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think because we feel like it's going into safe hands. I think because we know from the previous work from all of these guys, that the quality is there. So this is very much, by the sounds of it, becoming Russell's baby again, isn't it? He's really sort of taken control of this, and I like that. As I said, I think because we know Russell, it's quite reassuring in a way. I think if this was just if we didn't know anything about this company, if it was just announced that it was going over to big burger companies or something, something that we'd never heard of, we'd be a bit worried, like, what are they going to do to our show? But yeah, because we already know previous work of these guys, I think it's quite comforting. I think I never want to don't just relax and think everything's going to be fine. But I think we should feel it's in safe hands. It does sound promising, I must admit, the budget and everything as well, and it feels like the right time. I mean, the BBC has changed so much over the years, last few years in particular. So it feels like it's the right time for somebody to have a little bit more input, and not to take it away from them, but perhaps, like you said, to move it in a different direction. I think It feels like the right thing to do. So yeah, it's quite exciting. And technology is moving on so fast, isn't it? I mean, special effects now, like TV shows, are almost up to cinema standard. Some of them.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that by the time that this series goes into production, series 14 or whatever, or the specials, I'd like to think, the effects and everything will be of a really high standard. They're already pretty good, but yeah, I'd like to think we'll be blown away by some of it.
Yeah, and I think it also gives, I'm not speaking for Russell, obviously, but I think from his point of view, it gives him the stability and maybe the comfort in knowing that because he's worked with Bad Wolf and Julie and stuff before in the past, he can relax a little bit on the production side. Like, yep, I know those guys will handle it. All good. I can concentrate on doing what I do best, which is the writing side of things. So this could could be a perfect storm. Even though the BBC might lose out financially, like I said, it shows that they're willing to take a bit of the cut on that and just get Doctor Who rocking back to as good as it can be, I suppose.
And am I right in thinking then, does that mean that Russell's kind of got creative control over it? So the BBC can't interfere and be like, no, we needed this, we want that. And am I right in saying that?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, there will still be executives at the BBC. So this is kind of weird because Doctor Who is run by BBC Studios, which is kind of an independent subsidiary of BBC anyway. So the program Doctor Who is not funded by the license payer or anything like that. So they kind of have their own entity anyway. But there will be some executives at the BBC, like you have like head of drama, head of programming, head of all that sort of thing. They will still have the final say,
right?
But it will be more of a we need to make sure that the program adheres to our broadcasting rules and our tone of voice for drama and, making sure it fits within the BBC's, content specifications and stuff like that. So, but yeah, you are right. So for the most part now, Russell will have more control between him and the dudes at Bad Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, like he's not going to... Yeah, you can't have like loads of swearing in it and suddenly have loads of sex scenes and things. Yeah, so you can't just do whatever he wants.
No.
Yeah. He's got to keep it within the brief, I guess. But he's got a lot of control over it, basically. It's his thing. Yeah.
So I imagine when Chibbers is writing stuff, there'll be like a big meeting at the BBC where he goes through it and they will sign off on, making sure everything's, like I said, falls within their remit and stuff. Whereas when Russell takes over with Bad Wolf and stuff, that stuff won't happen as often, I wouldn't have thought. It will just be somebody from the BBC will go over to Cardiff and have a look and be like, yeah, this is all good, carry on. So yeah, it's exciting times though, but we're not going to let that overshadow the Series 13 stuff and all of next year that we have to look forward to. The rest of Jodie's stuff and Chibbers. So let's stick a pin in the excitement on that stuff at the minute. But it is a good sign, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think we've said on the show quite a few times that it would be great if the BBC just relinquished their control and gave it to somebody like Netflix. So this is kind of a step towards that, but it's still being I don't think the BBC would ever get rid of it, but it's kind of like a halfway house where they give the creative reins over to an external company, but they still hold the, BBC is still ours. It's our baby thing.
It sounds like, to me, I see it as the best of both worlds, really.
Yes.
Like the BBC still have it, but they've got an outsider influence in it. Yeah, so it's the best of both worlds, I think.
Indeedy. Yes. Right, news done. That's it. Review
Let's
time.
Get into it.
Let's do it. What are we doing, bud?
Yes, let's jump into the Flux with the first episode of Series 13, which is, of course, the Halloween Apocalypse.
Feeling paralyzed? Your life's work has ended.
I can't help feeling that some of this is my fault. Don't be alive!
In failure.
That's an invasion fleet, right? It looks like it.
What is that?
What's the Flux?
That's not a question I can answer.
Yes, you can. Why don't I know about this? And who else does? We don't have any more time.
Ooh, it's a good trailer. That. Yes. Right, Halloween Apocalypse then.
What's it all
about? Very recently, so obviously first broadcast on the 31st of October, Halloween this year. This is for time capsule purposes. I'm going to say 2021, even though we know it was last week. It was written by the Chibinator. It was directed by Jamie Magnus Stone and stars Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Mandip Gill as Yaz, and our new companion, Dan Lewis, played by John Bishop, and fairly sizable supporting cast for this one. The synopsis is Halloween 2021. A storm approaches. Something tears through space and time, undoing everything it touches. Who is the man who escapes his shackles? What about Dan? Has got his captor's attention. Why have the angels come? And what will remain of Earth when this night is done? So, big stakes, dude, right off the bat, it seems, with this one. Right then. What do you reckon? Dude, what do you reckon to this one?
Well, it kicked off, didn't it, with action, and it was like a roller coaster ride. It literally never stopped. The pace of this was neck breaking. Like, literally, it was all go, all systems go, and there was a lot to take in. I mean, blimey, we kind of knew from the promo pics that we were getting a lot of this stuff, but when they say Chibnall threw everything, including the kitchen sink, in, he really did. I mean, this episode had so much going on. It was a lot to take in, to be honest. And I gave it another watch yesterday, so I watched this episode twice. But on first viewing, I really enjoyed it. There was a hell of a lot to compute. I was like thinking, wow, 1 minute, you know, you've got new characters being introduced, who I think look awesome, by the way, the Swarm. And then you've got like some woman rocking up saying she knows the Doctor. Who the hell's that? Then you've got Vinda escaping in a pod, and Sontarrans, Weeping Angels. I was like, blimmin' heck, and all this, and you're getting Dan introduced as a new character. Not to mention the dog character, Carver Vinster. Is that how you say his name? Carver Vinster. So there was a lot to take in, and it, in a way, it could have been overwhelming, but I found it quite exciting. And yeah, I really enjoyed it on a first watch. I did wonder how it would stand up on a second watch, because I kind of felt like the whole episode is set up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But because we know it's one big story, I'm absolutely fine with that. Like, there isn't a great storyline in this in terms of, you know, as a standalone episode. It is all set up. But as I said, as an overall arc, I'm absolutely fine with that. So I really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. When the episode finished, I was absolutely buzzing to watch the next episode, which I have not felt for a very, very long time. Like, I can't remember the last time an episode or two finished, and I thought, like, there were rumours that they were going to drop the whole series on iPlayer. And the advertisement that comes up for this kept saying Doctor Who on iPlayer. And I thought, are they going to do that? So I immediately checked to see if the next episode was on there. And I tell you, if it had been, I would have jumped straight in. It really, really left me wanting more, which is what I wanted. You know, I remember saying to you last week, didn't I? Please be good. Please let this episode be good. And yeah, it's not perfect, obviously, but it did what it needed to do for me. It introduced new characters, which I thought were brilliant and scary. It had classic monsters in there, which were great to see. It introduced a new character, Dan, who I immediately liked. I was amazed how quickly I liked Dan. I mean, straight from the get-go, it was just, you know, when we've talked about how Chibnall struggles to sort of write characters you can connect with, just by making Dan this fun character that was pretending to work in the museum and getting thrown out, and then in the food bank, he just was immediately likable. And I was like, see, Chibnall can do it. He can write characters that you think, oh, he's a good guy. Like, this is a guy I like. And he had some fun scenes. So I warmed to Dan almost immediately. And that got me off to a really good start for the episode. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about, mate. I'm just going to hand over to you now, but I will just say I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I watched it again yesterday, and I enjoyed it just as much. I just watched it to make some notes because, as I said, heck of a lot to take in in this one. It's like, the accelerator has been put into full gear, and it's not, it's not taken off, is it? It's full on, So yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yes, I mostly liked this one.
Mostly liked it. Okay.
Mostly liked it. Yeah, I think that this is probably one of the best episodes that we've had since the Chibnall and Jodie era, for sure. Defo, because mainly because I think Jodie has stepped up a wee bit, which is exactly what we needed in the previous series.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. We needed Jodie to just, I don't know, not so much Jodie, but the writers just to do away with all the waffle and just get down to business, which I think happens because a lot of the scenes were so short and it was cut really quickly and the pacing was really fast through most of the episode. There was a couple of times where it slowed down a little bit, but for certainly the scenes with the Doctor and Yaz in them, they were really fast. So just by the very nature of time, it didn't allow them to do all the sort of gobbledygooky speak that she tried to do in the past series and stuff like that. So for that reason alone, it was very cool. And I'm loving the fact that, like you said, it just went into such a high gear straight away. It's like, boom, like the opening scene with them hanging upside down on the grav bar and stuff. It's just awesome. And it didn't really slow down. Not really until the end. And it was very cool. It was, one of our complaints from the previous series was that the pacing just was off a lot of the time, where we said that some of the episodes just got stuck at like 70%. And we really needed like more of a build-up, or we needed more action, or we needed something else. And it just felt a bit flat. So there's no way that you could say that about this episode. It was, top gear all the way through, which is good. I think overall, there are a couple of things I wasn't too keen on. Was for me personally, and for you, and our friends of other Doctor Who fans, it would have been fine. But I can imagine that for casual viewers, or for people that watched Doctor Who when David Tennant was on and then hadn't watched it since, this would have been maybe too much of a mind melter for them. To a degree, not too much, but that does come with a sort of a silver lining, a bit of a happy accident, in that if people were a little bit, what the bloody hell's going on, then that's just all the more reason to come back and watch next week, and the following weeks and stuff. So it's not too bad. It was just a bit of a, if I was recommending Doctor Who now to a friend, like somebody said to me, "Oh, Doctor Who's back on, should I watch it?" My reply would be, yes, absolutely, but just, you'll be scratching your head for a little bit afterwards, so just make sure you keep watching it. And then the other thing is that I've still got this little irky, rankly feeling under my skin that it feels like Chibbers is writing this as like somebody that likes Doctor Who and is writing Doctor Who as like sent in a script or sent in a story to the people who make Doctor Who. Like, I really need to make sense with this one. I feel like when we get to the end of this series and we look back on it, it will be like, yeah, there were some absolutely amazing moments in this 6-story arc and stuff like that. But it just feels a little bit like Chibbers is a bit of a fanboy who's writing a fan fiction for Doctor Who. And is not, I don't know, it just doesn't, it still doesn't, and I hate saying it, I don't want to be a negative ninny, but it still doesn't quite feel like Doctor Who that I want to watch.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah.
And that's only a small percentage of me. I don't want that to override my score or my feeling on the episode. I just want to put it out there now. Mostly, 90% of me really enjoyed it. It was a great watch, I feel like it's the best that Chibbers has done. But there is just a little part of me that's like, something feels off. I can't really put my finger exactly on what that is, but
I think I understand what you mean. I mean, I was worried when I saw all the monsters coming back, because I felt like, is Chibnall now just throwing in the stuff he thinks we want to see? Like, you know, is it going to be a bit fan, like you said, a bit fan fiction? Let's just throw in the Weeping Angels because I know people loves them and that. Because what I would like to think is, you know, we talk about Russell coming back, and there is no reason for Russell to come back unless he wants to. He doesn't need he doesn't need the work. I'm sure he isn't short of a bob or two. There must be something he wants to do. He's obviously got a plan. With Chibnall, I do often get that feeling like, does he sort of, you know, is the passion there basically? And maybe is that what you mean? Is he doing it because he absolutely loves and adores his show, and, you know, he's got all these ideas that he wants to get out on screen? Or is he doing it just because he likes the show, but he hasn't really got much of a plan, and I don't really know what I want to do with it? You know, he's been handed it, but what does he know what he wants to do with it? Does that make sense? Like, I feel with Russell, he must have got a plan, because otherwise, why would he come back? There must be something Russell wants to do. With Chibnall, I don't get that feeling. So I don't know if that's what you mean. I mean, even though I really enjoyed this episode, and I think the only thing I can think in terms of Chibnall's plan, and maybe something he wants to do, is the division stuff. Clearly he wants to elaborate on that, and that seems to be very much his thing. Whether that's going to lead into the Timeless Child, I don't know. But so there is that sense that he's got a bit of a plan of where he's going with the series.
Yeah,
but,
I think,
it does. Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think, I don't want to dwell on this too much. I don't want to be negative at all, because it was a great episode. But I think what I mean is, he obviously needs to wrap up something to do with the Timeless Children, or the Timeless Child thing. And I think that's the reason why the Doctor is still pursuing and going after Carvanista, because he's the last member of the division. And the division plays such a key role in the whole Timeless Child thing. So I think, alongside the whole Flux story thread, which is obviously the driving force of the series, it seems, I think he still has he probably wants to have try and tie that up to a degree, the Timeless Child thing, maybe, because when we had that revelation of the Timeless Child previously, after that, it felt like it was never mentioned in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of brushed off, wasn't it? Yeah,
under the carpet, even though it was such a huge, massive thing that, that could potentially destroy the entire canon of the entire show. It was like, it was this massive climax. And then after that, it was, well, nothing. It was nothing. So I think it's a combination of Chibbers wanting to progress his own little idea. That sounds patronising, his little idea. His idea of the Timeless Child and stuff for his own writing merits and stuff like that, and his own wants, which is fine. But I also feel like the BBC has said to him, look, over the past two series, the viewing numbers have steadily declined, and we have more and more people within the community being negative about the show. You've got to do something to at the end of the day, I know that you're a fan of the show and you're writing what you want to write, but we're still a TV channel. We still need viewing figures. We need them to be strong. Yeah. So I think he's had a little bit of a look. You need to come strong with your final series. So I think that's why he's like, okay, let's bring the Angels back. Let's kick it into high gear. Let's not have as much of the cloak and dagger approach that we had in the past two series. So, and I think as a result of that, he's now been kind of forced into a wee bit of a corner with the writing, because I can't imagine Russell's going to be too thrilled about just knowing what the kind of Doctor Who that he wrote when he was, showrunner and stuff like that. I can't imagine that he would be 100% thrilled with having to carry the Timeless Child thing throughout his era. That feels like a bit of a dead weight, like a boulder that you're dragging behind you.
Yeah.
So I feel like Chivers has got to wrap this up or do something with it somehow. And then you couple that with like, okay, we need a real, obviously. And I'm not saying that he doesn't want to make good Doctor Who. Of course he does. But I'm saying that the BBC probably said, look, you need to do something with this. So for that reason alone, it feels like he's writing a bit of a fan fiction about Doctor Who. So that's just my thoughts.
I get what you mean. I suppose I'm sort of, although I get what you're saying, I think I'd rather have that than what we've had in the last two series. I'm kind of thinking, well, if this is, I'd rather he throws it all in there and does this than actually trying to do what he was doing before. Because as I said, I really enjoyed this episode, and there was lots of questions to answer. And obviously, I'm assuming we're going to get those answered over the course of these 6 episodes. At least I hope we do. The Timeless Child thing, I've said it before. I don't like the Timeless Child of reflection. I don't like the idea of it. But, Chibnall's thrown the grenade in. Let it go off. Do something with it. Like, don't just, like, I don't really want it carried over into RTD2. Let's have it, come on, Chibnall, you've put it in there, do something with it. So whatever he decides to do, I'm intrigued to see it, whether I like it or not. If that makes sense. Like, you've done it now, Chibnall, so see it through, basically. So yeah, I'm happy with that. We talk about episodes getting stuck in a gear quite often, and I mean, this got stuck in gear 10, and it really didn't let up. And again, I would much rather that, because I wasn't bored at all. There was not one single moment in this episode where I was bored. And that's quite a rare thing, I think, with any TV show. Like, even watching it again yesterday, it was a thrilling episode, I thought, in terms of that. I mean, the downside is I think there were moments when it would have been nice if it just took off the brake a little bit to allow some scenes to breathe a little. There are a couple of moments where I thought, we got some nice scenes. There was a good bit where Yaz and the Doctor are having a little chat in the TARDIS, where she puts the headset on and she says, I had a little glitch earlier. I just need to check I'm all right. And Yaz is like, what are you on about, little glitch? And I thought that was the only moment really when the brakes were took off just slightly, and then we were straight back into the action. But it's not really a criticism, because, as I said, it was nice to watch an episode and just be really going along with the ride and thinking, I'm loving every minute of this practically. I just thought it was a really good ride. But yeah, I don't know. The downside of that is it didn't have a lot of time to breathe, did it? It was stuck in the 10th gear pretty much all the way through. But it's not really a criticism, more of an observation. Like, it might have been nice if it had just eased off now and again. But I'd much rather that. I mean, there were quite a few episodes in Series 12 where I was just like, like the Ryan episode where he's with his mate, and I was like, this is so slow. Like, this is real. Oh, I'm getting really sort of bored. Whereas there was no time to even, this is unintentionally going to say this, but there was no time to even blink in this episode. I was about to say that about even meaning to, but no, there really wasn't, was there? It was non-stop action right from the get-go. Yeah, and I know what you're saying with that stuff, dude. It's I think the slower scenes for me were with Dan in the first quarter of the episode, where he's at the food bank or the homeless shelter, whatever it was, and food bank. Yeah, even at the beginning, when we have that really lovely sweeping drone shot of Liverpool, where anyone that's been to Liverpool, you'd recognise it immediately. It's got that very famous, the Liver building, and then you're down to that museum on the seafront and stuff like that, and you can see he's passionate about where he comes from. Maybe that was John Bishop's, if I'm going to be in the show, then I'm going to be a proud Liverpudlian. I'm not just going to be there for accent's sake. So you can tell that as he's taking he's like a tour guide unofficially. I think he was fired or something a while ago. Yeah, but something like that. Still showing up to do it. So you can tell that he's passionate about that stuff, and they play on that a little bit throughout the episode as well. But when he's talking to Yaz about, she's like, "What's wrong with Yorkshire and stuff?" And there's a bit of here if you're not from the UK, there's a bit of a rivalry between various regions of the UK. So it's normally Liverpool and Manchester have a bit of a rivalry, and you just got the Northwest and then Yorkshire. There's a little bit of a thing there. So they play on that a little bit. But those scenes where Dan was involved, they normally were the slower ones that I found, especially at the beginning, when the trick-or-treater turns up with that funny clip that we got before the episode went out. The guy with he's about 20 odd and just wants to sweeten stuff. So that was fairly cool. And it wasn't until he got kidnapped by Carvanista later on, and he's being rescued and stuff, that from that point on, the slower stuff stopped for me. So it was mainly that set up for him in the earlier sides, which was, like you said, that was cool. And then the fact that we had such a high gear throughout everything, or most scenes,
is not a bad thing, because I think going back, and if we decide, I don't know about you, or, if our listener has done this at all, but for me, I haven't really gone back and watched any of the Jodie stuff.
No.
Previously. But if I decide to go back and watch Series 13, which at the moment, I think I will, based on this first episode, then that's what you need for a really good kick-off to a fairly short series. You can't wait, you haven't got the luxury of 10, 12 episodes to build up and then get your foot on the gas. So you've got to come out the trap strong. So, I don't mind that, dude. There were a couple of times, like you said, where it would have been handy for the Doctor to expand a little bit. But I think that was cleverly written, though, because I think that plays into the viewer's anxiety around what the Doctor's doing as well, because you can tell that there's still that little bit of disconnect and trust issue between the Doctor and Yaz, where Yaz knows confidently that the Doctor's not telling her something. She's, there's that thing going on where she can see that the Doctor's turning something over in her mind, and she's worried about something or whatever, and Yaz is pleading with her, look, just tell me what's going on. But the Doctor's still a bit sort of secretive and cagey, yeah. And I think that plays into the viewer's side of things as well. We want the Doctor to tell us what's going on and stuff like that. So they could have slowed it down and expanded there, but I think that was good writing, though, to keep that short and concise, because we're now thinking afterwards, so what's wrong with the Doctor? What's this going on? So we obviously know that she wants to investigate the timeless child thing a bit more, hence tracking down Carvanista. But other than that, we don't really know. Don't really know what's going on.
I haven't gone back and watched anything from series 11 or 12 since we reviewed it. I probably watched each episode twice, because I tend to do that when we review an ep. I will always go back and rewatch it before we review it. And there's no inclination to go back and watch them with me. And that I find sad, because, I'd like to think there'd at least be a couple of episodes I'd want to revisit. But I just find myself, like you said earlier about there being something missing with series 11 and 12, those episodes, even the ones which I think are quite are good, there's something missing that makes me want to watch them. There's no heart to it with me. It doesn't have that emotional connection. So I haven't gone back and watched any, whereas with this episode I would quite happily watch it again right now. The danger with this is because I've, and it's by the sounds of it, you have found it a really strong opener. I'm really hoping that this can continue for the next 5 episodes. Like, I really hope this doesn't fizzle out, either in the middle or at the end. I really hope this. I'm not saying it needs to be this action-packed all the way through this series, but what I would love is if we get to the end of series 13 and I really feel like I want to go back and watch it from the start and really enjoyed it. That's what I'm hoping, because sadly I didn't get that at all with series 11 and 12. So it's a really promising start, and I would love to get to the end of it and feel like it had rewatch value, and that it wasn't just. I think some of the things that people are worried about is that a lot of the things that have been thrown in there in this episode are going to turn out to be like red herrings, and they're not actually going to go anywhere. That is a concern. We introduced the character of the Swarm, and what was she called? Azura, was it?
Azura, yeah.
The other one, yeah. 2, I thought, really creepy characters. I absolutely loved the style of them. This sort of crystallized face that they've got. I think they look fantastic, and they're really creepy as well. The people performing them, Sam Spruill as Swarm, Spruill, and Nadia Albina. No, sorry, that's Diane.
Roshinda Sandel.
Yeah, great performances from them. And I'm really hoping that there's a lot of talk that Swarm could be the Master. I think because he said renewed at last, didn't he? Which sounds like a Master line. It sounds like something he said before. And he knows the Doctor and she doesn't know him. Also, he breaks into her mind and shows her stuff, which, Sasha's Master kind of did. There are a lot of things pointing towards him being the Master. I don't know how they're going to get around that if that's true. I hope he isn't. I want him to be a new character, and I want there to be a better twist than that. If he just turns out to be the Master, I think that's going to be, so stuff like that could be disappointing. And unfortunately, Chibnall has a knack of doing stuff like that, like cheap. What do you call it? Not cheap thrills, but like
Quick wins. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, that's a shame,
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully we'll get to the series that'll be good. But what do you reckon to Swarm and Azure? Good new monsters?
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what, dude? I think the Master's just too obvious.
Well, that's what I mean. It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be too. I hope so anyway. But see, that's the other thing that's missing from series 11 and 12 for me, mate. This episode introduced new characters and new monsters, and that's what's been really lacking for me in the Chibnall era, is this imagination of new characters. Like even Carver, I can never going to say his name right. How do you say it? Carver-Ninster. Even Carver-Ninster, right? I thought he was a brilliant character, excellently played by Craig Ells. Just really, really good. I was so at the start, right? I don't know if you thought this. The very beginning when the Doctor and Yaz are all handcuffed and everything in the sky. Did you not think he sounded like Christopher Eccleston?
I did a little bit. Yes.
I thought.
Yeah. I thought
what's going on?
Is that Chris Eccleston? Or
it really sounded like it.
Or Peter Kay. It was one of the two, or a mix.
Peter Kay. Yeah. But just, I suppose we may as well just quickly talk about him. What do you reckon to him as a character? For me, he brought a lot of fun to it, and he was I thought he was a really good character. I really like him.
Yeah.
He's got that grumpiness. He's got the humour. He can be a bit scary. He's not afraid to get into a ruckus. I thought the stuff with him and Dan was brilliant, where Dan's like, I'm not your human, and all that stuff. Again, stuff that for me was making me laugh and making me gravitate towards the characters, which I've really not felt in this era for a very long time. So, yeah, I really like him. I do want to say something about the mask, but I'll come to that when after you've said what you think. Do you like
Carver-Nister?
Yeah.
Carver.
Think of the drink, yeah. Carver.
Nister.
Think of Nister. Carver-Ninster.
No, Nister.
I know, I said it.
Not
I was
Ninster.
saying think of Nister. Oh, anyway, yeah.
Okay.
What do you think of him?
Carver-Nister. So I thought he was a great character, dude. Really, really cool character. And the concept is so simple, but yet so borderline funny in a way where they kind of flip the whole man's best friend on its head, where the dogs, the space dogs are coming to rescue their human. Every person in the species. What's the name? Begins with P, doesn't it? Their species. What are they called?
Oh no! This is that moment when all the listeners are shouting at us. Oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, for
I don't know
heaven's
what they're
sake.
called. While you're looking it up, I'm just going to say I loved that idea of all the spaceships joining up to wrap around the Earth as well.
Yeah, that's
again,
cool.
Quite a simple idea, but I loved all that, and the fact that they've all come to rescue one human and stuff. I thought was just a cool, very simple concept as well. I just really liked all that stuff. While you're looking for
the Lupari.
Oh, there you go.
The Lupari, yeah. So they've all turned up and they've been genetically assigned a human that they need to rescue, get off the planet. So that was very cool. Even the Doctor says, man's best friend, and he's has it all look. So the actual character of Carver-Nister I thought was very, very cool, because that could have just been another human character. That could have been anything, previous to the whole division thing. But so the fact that it's a Wookiee style costume with a guy, and there was a lot of Norths, wasn't there, in this episode, because we obviously have Dan, who's from the north. We've got the Doctor, who's from the north, like the whole Sheffield thing. Yaz is from the north, and it reminded me of that line from Chris Eccleston's Doctor when Rose is something like, "Oh, you're northern." He's like, "Yeah, what's wrong with that? Every planet's got a north sort of thing." And then you have Carver-Nister turns up; he's got a northern accent as well. So there was a lot of Norths in it, but yeah, he was just he had that threatening nature about him, which was cool. But he also had, I don't know, he had a sense of, like he knew exactly what was going on. So so instead of just attacking the Doctor on sight, he actually had a conversation with her, and then when she reveals to him a couple of things, his face, changes. When she's sending him the coordinates, like, just link all your ships together. And he's like, "Why should I?" He's like, "Just do it now." And then he's like, Actually, yeah, she's got a point. So he's an intelligent character, which is good, but he's also got his purpose and his mission and stuff, which is cool. But he's just very, very strong, but a nice little bit of humour mixed in. I think
he's likeable, isn't he? He's a likeable guy, intelligent, but also, and he's a good guy. So we thought he might be a baddie, didn't we? But he's a good guy, just a bit grumpy. And I really liked him. And I like the overall look of him, but I do want to come to the mask, because what I don't get is why they kept filming him in such a close-up, because it didn't do the mask any favours. Like, he looked really good. If they just, when they shot him just a couple of steps back, like, the mask looked fine, but they did quite a lot of close-ups, and I thought, in HD that it looks passable, but it's not great. Like, there's a bit where Dan strokes his face, and it looks I just thought he looked great from just a little bit further away. I was surprised how many close-ups they did of the mask, because I don't think it was as good as perhaps they thought it was. But it doesn't bother me. That goes hand in hand with Doctor Who, doesn't it? I don't get too hung up on things like that. I mean, even that awful. Do you remember the thing in Orphan 55? That thing that looked like the character from Spaceballs, that dog woman creature. Yeah. I mean, that was dreadful. But stuff like that doesn't generally bother me. But yeah, I love him anyway. I'm really on board with his character already. I hope he's going to be in it throughout the series, because I think he's a lot of fun. Carvanista. Yeah, he's cool. Carvanista.
Carvanista.
I got it, Carvanista.
Yeah, no, he's cool. It's I think we need characters like that as well.
Yes, we need characters. That's what's been missing, isn't it? Everyone's just been such a cardboard cutout in a lot of Jodie's era. It's just nice to finally get some fun new characters, and some evil new characters, And they're all working for me at the minute. Oh, apart from one actually, who's kind of got lost in the mix for me, which is Vinder. There was such a big thing made about him joining the show.
Oh yeah,
it was like a big reveal. This guy, Vinder. I think because there was so much going on in the episode, for me, he kind of got lost. I forgot he was kind of in it until the rewatch, and I was like, oh yeah, Vinder, this new guy. I'm guessing he's going to be a lot more prominent in the rest of the series, but I've got to be honest, he didn't really, in the scenes he was in, he didn't really do anything for me. He did feel a little bit by numbers, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, Dan immediately warned to him, love Carver Vinster. I immediately wanted them, but Vinder didn't really do anything for me at all, really. But maybe he will when he's given a bit more screen time. I don't know.
I thought he was really good,
Did you? You like Vinder?
Yeah, Jacob Anderson. Yeah, I think I think that was on purpose completely. Is to not make too much of his character in this first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's meant to be more of it's going to be interesting to see what he's actually doing on that remote outpost. Because it sounds like in the first scene that we see him, he's doing his daily recording of what's going on, and I think he's just reporting on looking at exactly the same bit of space that he's looked at what sounds like for years on end, and he's really bored and nothing's happening. So when the Flux turns up and starts to demolish all of the universe around him, and he buggers off, I think that was a nice little setup. I think if we had too much of his character, and if he was that would have been like even more like it would have just been too busy within this one episode, because I've already said that the gear was really high throughout, and there was lots going on. I think if they tried to make too much of his character, then we're in busy TARDIS team territory, where
I get you.
You start sacrificing that screen time for what else was going on. So but I really liked him. I think he's a great actor. I think I'll be interested to see how he teams up with the Doctor and Yaz and Dan, because we saw that in the trailer, didn't we, where they were together somewhere. They've come together at some point, so it'd be interesting to see how they
now just happens. You saying that's made me think. I think he's going to come and rescue the Doctor.
You think?
In the because it was a good cliffhanger, wasn't it? It was a really good cliffhanger, and I thought I've just suddenly thought of that, because he's kind of, maybe that's why he's purposely been left to just one or two scenes, because he's going to, I don't know. I just thought of that as you were saying it, but he's yet to grow on me. I mean, I think he's okay. I kind of like Vinder, but yeah, he's not sort of grabbing me at the minute. What's all the Liverpool 1820 stuff as well? Because that for me got lost completely on a first watch. It was only yesterday that I'd completely forgotten about all that. So we go back to Liverpool in 1820, and there's these two guys Are they by a mine shaft or something? I don't know. So what's going on there? What are they building? Because he's like, time's running out, and we've got to build this, and then it's like it jumps 201 years later, which Chibnall loves doing those screen captions. But yeah, what are those guys? What's that got to do with anything?
Yeah, so this is kind of playing on. So they do this occasionally with Doctor Who, where they take a historical thing that actually happened, and they apply their own little Doctor Who sort of sci-fi twist to it. So you remember in the Capaldi episode where they played on this thing around certain streets on maps that were hidden. Trap streets, they were called.
Trap Street, yes.
Yeah, which was an actual thing that map makers used to do back in the day. This is a similar thing. So a guy called Joseph Williamson was back in the early 19th century. He basically, ordered the construction of these tunnels, which in Liverpool now are called the Williamson tunnels. But nobody knew exactly why he wanted them made.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
so this is all new information to me.
Yeah, so
okay.
it's an actual. So nobody really knows what his purpose was for having these tunnels made. So apparently, it's the subject of a lot of historians and academic people in universities and stuff. That there's a lot of speculation and chatter around. Well, why did he make these tunnels? What was the purpose and stuff? So not only do we not know as the viewer from the episode, the real world doesn't really know why they were made either. So yeah, all we know is it's a little historical nugget of thing that not exactly happened like that, but it's kind of based on a true thing. So that's one of those things, isn't it, that will be tied up later, I suppose. So all we know,
cool.
So how we know, all we know at the moment is that guy Williamson. Who's having a bit of a ruckus with what looks like the guy who's funding the project. His mate turns up and he's like, look, what's going on? This is ridiculous. And he fights back. He's like, I know exactly what I'm doing. This is all for a bigger purpose, sort of thing. So I have no clue, absolutely no clue how that's going to pan out. I imagine we'll get a few little flashbacks to that time period and what's going on with those tunnels as we go through each episode. But how it's all going to coalesce, I have no idea. But
that's really cool, mate. I had no idea about that. I really like that. Cool. I love the fact that that's a real thing. Because that's brilliant. So yeah, that's really cool. Because that to me was just such a throwaway. I was like, what is going on here? Like this doesn't, like the other stuff I can kind of connect, but this just seemed really random to me. So, but that's interesting. So I wonder how they're going to utilize that. I kind of like it when they do that as well, when they bring in things from the real world. It just brings it a bit closer to home. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
See, again, now when I rewatch that, it'll have a totally different meaning to me. That's brilliant.
Yes. No, it's cool. Yeah, very cool.
I'll tell you another scene I did find a bit random, mate, is the bit with Claire. So, this woman, she just sort of waltzes up in the middle of the action and says to the Doctor, you probably haven't met me yet. I'm from your past and all this. And what I found strange about it was that the Doctor didn't seem at all concerned. I know she had a lot going on. She had a lot on her plate. I get it. But she kind of just gets on the TARDIS and goes. And that was strange. I thought that surely the Doctor would be like, you better come in. This is obviously something to do with what's going on. And the Doctor just seemed to be very dismissive of her. But who's that character, do you reckon? Claire. Like she knows that another one that knows the Doctor, but the Doctor doesn't know her, and she's like, I've got to go and what did she say? I'm taking the long way round or something.
Yeah, something like
Again,
that.
another sort of quote, and I was like, Chibnall's really throwing in, another intriguing line. I'm taking the long way home or something. She said, didn't she?
Yeah.
And then there was a brilliant scene with the angel where she got taken by the weeping angel. That was great. When she's trying to get in her house. And she was desperately trying to keep her eye on the angel, and she almost did it. It was brilliant. Really, a good use of the weeping angel. It was really scary, I thought. Just the way they did it, because she's so close to getting in, and you just see the eye, blinking. She's gone. That was great. It was a really good scene. But who do you reckon Claire is? Like, who's this woman?
Yeah, as we mentioned at the very beginning, there's a few things in the episode where it's going to be almost painful to have to get through the series to find out the conclusion to some of these things. But there's a couple of things that I love about that the way that character was brought into the episode. So back in the episode Blink, it was done in almost a romantic way, I would say, because Blink is its main driver, I suppose, is relationships in that episode. And that was all very nice. And when the Doctor sees, when the Doctor bumps into Sally at the end of that episode Blink, it's a similar reaction, but the Doctor pays a bit more attention to her.
Yeah.
So she knows who the Doctor is, but he doesn't. It's a similar thing. And when Claire rocks up, she's like, we have a similar thing. Like, I know who the Doctor is, like, sort of thing. But the thing that I liked about it was, it wasn't planned that way. So so Claire was surprised that she was seeing the Doctor now at that point. It sounded like she knew she was going to see the Doctor, but maybe much later. So that was really cool. It was that time, a little bit of timey-wimey, but not like a whole mind melter, like, oh my God, I don't understand what's going on. It was just clear that she was just surprised to see the Doctor at that point. And then the other thing that was cool is how suspenseful that Weeping Angel bit was, because
it was brilliant.
Yeah, just by their very nature, it's easy to get that stuff wrong. It's easy to overplay that stuff. But it was done really well with the whole reaching behind her and trying to get the key in the door, because as a viewer, you're like, how flipping difficult is it to get your key in the door? I can do that with my eyes shut. But I think if you were to try and put yourself in that situation where you're absolutely terrified,
and you've got to keep your head looking straight at that thing.
Yeah, that would be incredibly difficult to do, I think. And what's also strange, well, I don't know about strange, but she knew exactly what it was. She knew exactly.
That's a good point. Yeah,
It wasn't like she's like, oh, it's a weird statue, whatever. As soon as she saw it, she's like, her face was like, oh, beep. And
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, she even says to herself out loud, like, don't blink, don't blink. So I'm intrigued by her character, dude. I'm really looking forward to seeing what she's about and why she's there. Because she's obviously been zapped across time somewhere by the Angel, and I assume that, she's going to interact with the Doctor at another time point, whatever. But yeah, fair play to Chibbers for that bit though. That was one of the better kind of, ooh, what's going to happen there? So I think that character Claire and Swarm and her sister, those two are going to be the most intriguing. Who are they? And like you said earlier, there's a lot of chat around, is he the Master? There's also a lot of chat around, is it Omega?
Oh, hang on. I hadn't thought of that. Oh, my word.
Come on.
Wow. Yeah, now that could make sense, because he's been rumoured to be coming back for a while. I hadn't thought of Omega.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Just quickly going back to Claire, mate, she seemed to know it was her time as well, didn't she? Doesn't she say, like, oh, well, like she seems to know she's going to die. She can't remember what she says, but like she's like, oh well, I can't put it off, or time for me to go, or something. I don't know. She seemed to know that it was going to be her time as well. So she is really intriguing. But the Swarm as Omega, that's interesting. I may not be able to get that out of my head now. That's yes, could that be?
To me, that seems more plausible than the Master. To me, anyway.
Yeah, and I would think I would much prefer that. It'd be so much more interesting. Do you know what, mate? Just talking through this episode, this is what has been missing from the Chibnall era for me anyway, is it's throwing out questions and getting us all talking and guessing. And I think although we've had one or two bits in series 11 and 12, this episode's thrown out a million questions. And it's actually, I'm finding it genuinely exciting to be talking about Doctor Who again. I'm thrilled to be feeling like this. I have not been felt like this about Doctor Who in a very long time, and we haven't even mentioned half the other stuff in the episode. I've got to take my hat off to Chibnall. He's really given us some good stuff to talk about. I really hope it pays off. But it's great to have all these questions and to be speculating like this. It's really got us our thinking caps on, hasn't it? It's brilliant, actually.
Defo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just quickly talking about that Weeping Angel scene. I'll tell you another thing that was good about it. The music. I'm going to take my hat off to Sagan as well, because it's not that I'm not a fan of him. It's just that I prefer Murray. I love Murray's music. Sagan's, I find, I don't dislike it, but it's very one tone for me. I find it a bit drab at times. I'm going to take my hat off to him and say he did a great job in this episode. I was listening carefully on a rewatch yesterday to see how the music fitted with the scenes, because a lot of people had criticised him for the comedy scene with Dan, saying, "Oh, Sagan can't do the comedy music like Murray did. It's totally the wrong tone." I thought his music really fitted in nicely. It is very much underplayed. It's a totally different style to Murray, but that's not a bad thing. Chibnall's taken it in a different direction. We can't have the same thing over and over again. And I just thought in scenes like the Weeping Angel, and especially with the cliffhanger and the stuff with the Swarm, Sagan for me was really dishing out some good stuff. There's some really nice music in this. Again, very much in his style. It's very minimalist, but there was some good stuff that really fitted and helped create a very creepy and intense atmosphere, I thought. So I'm going to take my hat off to Sagan in this one. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I think this was one of his best episodes for music, because it took it a step further from just being atmospheric supporting music, which is, like you said, very minimal, to being very much more. It sounded as well like they just upped the volume a little bit for quite a few scenes, So it did feel, because one of the things that we said when we reviewed anything with Murray in it was that sometimes it's like we can't hear what they're saying.
Actually, I did find that a couple of times in this. You've just reminded me. I don't know if I'm just getting old, but there were a couple of bits where the music was drowning out. I was like, what did she say? Even on a rewatch. I don't know. I'm not going to criticise it because I really liked it, but there were a couple of bits where I couldn't understand what it's saying. I think it's mainly in that first scene, actually, where the very first scene with the Doctor and Yaz hovering on the bar and all that, that really great intro. That was full on, and the music again was good. But yeah, I did struggle to hear what the Doctor was saying a little bit of the time. That was funny though, when she's going release. These are scenes which in other series I found could be really cringy, but I thought it was a good open at that. I thought it was fun. I was a little bit worried because it was a lot of quirky one-liners between the Doctor and Yaz, and I thought, oh dear, it's not going to be too silly, is it? As an intro, it was a little bit worrying. But watching it again yesterday as an episode as a whole, I thought it was a really fun way to start the episode. Straight in there like that. It was quite a fun scene.
Little bit of trivia on that bit. Wee bit. So those cuffs, the Doctor thinks that when she set up the voice control for them, she was doing them in previous incarnation with a Scottish accent. So we wouldn't know it in this country, but over in the US for BBC America, if you had the subtitles on, the first attempt when she tries to do a Scottish accent, the subtitle says, "in the style of the 12th Doctor."
Oh.
And then the second time she tries to do it, the subtitles say, "in the style of the 7th Doctor, McCoy's Doctor."
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool little pop fact. That's brilliant.
Cool. Yeah.
That is cool. Also, Nitro 9 gets a mention in that scene, doesn't it?
It does.
Which again was a little bit of a hey moment. I liked that. I like the fact that got a mention. I'm not going to read too much into this, and nobody seems to have really mentioned it online, but I couldn't, everybody's saying, is there going to be the whole Thasmin thing, 13th Doctor and Yaz getting together? That's been rumoured for a while. Couldn't help but notice when they land in the TARDIS, they land on a double bed in the TARDIS, as if that's like where they sleep. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I couldn't help but notice that. So clearly, there's quite a lot of room in that TARDIS. I'm sure there's room for 2 beds.
Well, the Doctor doesn't sleep, so.
Very. Well, you think Yaz has just got a double bed to herself? Probably. Yeah, that makes sense.
I wouldn't read too much into that.
I'm not going to. It's just that because I was watching it at mates, we'd all had a few beers when they landed on the double bed together. We're all away. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the whole Nitro 9 thing though. That was so good. Yeah.
Sophie Aldred actually tweeted about it as well, which is nice. I'm glad she was watching.
Yes.
And saw that. So that was cool. Yeah.
Let's talk about. Okay, so we've gone through a few characters already then.
And did you like Dan though? You haven't told me. Did you like Dan?
Yeah, I was gonna say I love Dan.
You did.
Honestly,
brilliant.
Yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah.
There was there was a small part of me that thought, John Bishop, he's such a likeable guy, very funny. But is he going to work as an actor? Because that's a very big difference from being an entertainer. Like, like somebody that appears on a lot of, comedic game shows and does stand-up comedy. Doing that sort of stuff is obviously very difficult and requires a certain sort of person, but it's really completely different world to straight up acting. So I thought, is he going to move over? And I know he's been in a couple of little things in the past, so this is not his first rodeo, but this is a big show for him to be in. So I thought, is he going to be a little bit wooden? Is he going to be a bit OTT? Blah, blah, blah. But actually, dude, he was completely natural. Really just bang on. Really likable. Really funny. Like his reaction to things. You know when Carvanista tries to do the Jedi mind trick on him?
Yeah.
And he's like, his face has just got that confused, like, what are you doing?
You're doing,
yeah. The to-in and throwing between him and Carvanista was so funny. And he played that really well. So just out of the gate, dude, I thought he was really good. And I think I stand by what I said before, is that he's almost got a bit of Donna Noble vibe about him. He really has got that really cool, grounded, working class person about him, but he's got that likable, friendly, funny streak to him. Yeah,
I hear. I had similar concerns because John Bishop always comes across as such a nice guy in interviews, and I've been quite jealous because a couple of my different friends have gone to the stage door to meet him in the last week as well, and have said he's like so friendly apparently. But yeah, I had concerns. I thought, he's a nice guy, but is he going to be able to deliver the lines in a way that's funny but feels natural, doesn't feel forced, and is he going to be a bit wooden as an actor? How's he going to fit into this? And the whole chemistry between him and Yaz and the Doctor, I thought, is this going to work? He's got quite a strong accent, quite a strong presence. Is it going to work? And he just seemed to fit in effortlessly, I thought, and his delivery of the humor as well was done so well. It was, slightly underplayed, which is what it needed to be. It wasn't like he was delivering like a stand-up or comedy lines. The humor felt very natural, and he delivered it well. So I was very impressed with John Bishop. As I said earlier, just immediately liked him. There were really nice scenes as well. The stuff with him and Carvanista, the stuff where the Doctor gave him his house. I loved that bit. She's like, oh, by the way, Dan, here's your house. And she hands him this little miniaturized house, which again, kind of, the master miniaturizes things, just saying. But yeah, stuff like that. There was some lovely scenes with Dan, and I think they're going to work well together, these three. Just two things so I don't forget. Firstly, did you notice, and this could be a production error or it could be something else, because they like to throw these things in. So Dan's house is number 37. The house next door is number 49. So how does that work? So is that a little production? Have they just put fake numbers on and didn't realise that you could see the house? To me, that just seems a bit too obvious to be a mistake, but don't know. Talking of mistakes, there were a couple of scenes where the TARDIS interior, the picture they put in the prop, so it was upside down in a couple of shots, which we'd noticed when they were filming. People had noticed that. They were like, oh, they've put the backdrop in upside down, the idiots. But now I'm starting to think that was on purpose because of all the stuff going. Yeah, there was a couple of scenes where you have to blink and you'll miss it, but there are a couple of scenes where the backdrop is in upside down, which people had noticed when they were filming. They were like, oh, the idiots have put the TARDIS up wrong. And maybe they did, or maybe it's supposed to be there again. I don't know.
But that's on purpose, though.
That's what I mean. I think it is. Yeah. But at the time, we just thought they'd put the prop together wrong. But now I'm thinking it's on purpose. But there's a scene where they come out and it's upside down, but when they go back in, it's back up the right way. So mistake or not, we don't know. But so, yeah, what do you think about Dan's house? The number, is that a mistake, or do you think that's a little... Says something weird about Dan's house? Because you can't have number 49 next to number 37. That doesn't work. So it's either a production error or it's a little thing of, oh, you noticed that, did you? Well, wait and see. But that scene cracked me up when she gave him his little house, and his reaction to it, like, is your house, Dan? I was like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah, I can't live in that.
Yeah. The thing I really want to ask you, though, is, so we both like Dan. Is he Graham Volume 2? Or is he his own character and better than that? Because that's the other thing we were worried about. Yeah.
Yeah. No disrespect to Graham. I thought he was a real great companion and character in the last couple of series. In a couple of episodes, just saving the day in more ways than one. And Bradley Walsh is great, don't get me wrong, but I think Dan's got a little bit more... because of there's not as many people in the TARDIS at the minute, I think we're going to see him do a bit more as well.
Yeah.
And with Graham's character, it's with the whole Graham and Ryan thing, it just felt like it was very predictable as well as we went through the last couple of series. It was like, oh yeah, we can see what's going to happen there. Whereas Dan, I think, is a bit of a wild card at the minute. We don't know if he's going to be... We don't know if he's going to be travelling full time with the Doctor, if he's going to just pop up again. One would assume so. One would assume he's now part of the crew, part of the fam. But it does, it doesn't... We still don't know 100% his backstory properly or anything like that. So I think there's more... It feels like there's more substance to his character. I don't want to take anything away from Bradley Walsh and Graham's character, because that was very... he was also very grounded and very likable and stuff. But I think Dan has the potential to be a very, very good companion. Yeah.
Here's what's weird. So I liked Graham, and especially in Series 11, we all know that he was shoved in the background for Series 12. Not Bradley Walsh's fault. But here's the thing: if anything happened to Dan now, I've got more emotional attachment to Dan's character. If he was to leave or get shot or killed off, I would be devastated. And he's only been in one episode. Whereas, as much as I love Graham, when they left, I felt nothing at all, and I liked Graham. But yeah, if anything happened to Dan, I'd be like, no, not Dan. So that's another thing where I think is a step up with the writing, is that I've already got emotional attachment to Dan, that I would care like what happens to him in this series, like a lot. So yeah. So hats off to John Bishop. He's a great job so far.
Yes,
it's only been in one ep, but so far really good.
Yeah, totally agree, dude. Totally agree. Yeah, he's very good. Let's finish up on a couple of things then. I don't think we're going to cover everything, but
we can't. It's impossible. Yeah. Like my whole notepad is just full of things. Yeah.
Just a couple of small things and then a big thing. So small thing number one, did you like the way that they introduced the character of Azure? So she was just the normal we thought was just
another strange scene, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So in the Arctic Circle, Anna and her partner, obviously they're doing, living there, doing science stuff, whatever. You see this weird floating thing that almost looked like a beacon of some sort that activated. Yeah. And it was weird because it looked like the character of Azure was trapped in this human form. But when she saw that little floating drone beacon thing, she knew exactly what it was, because she just takes a hammer to it straight away. Yeah. And then when Swarm turns up in the night, obviously takes kills her partner, it takes his life force or whatever, and then frees her. Then she becomes, she looks very similar to Swarm and stuff like that. Did you like how they handled that stuff? Because I thought that was kind of cool.
I did. I mean, dodgy accents aside, there's something in the... no, I did. Again, it was a really out of the blue scene. I'm like, God, where are we going to now? As if we haven't got enough going on. Where are we now? And I thought it was intriguing. It's quite scary as well, when it was like the way that he was disintegrated in front of her and stuff. And then he's like, my sister Azure and all that. I thought it was very good. Yeah. Really good. And I love the look of her as well. I really like the look of these guys, like the design of them, this sort of glittery skeleton-like thing with shards of God knows what sticking out of their faces. And yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. And then the other thing, again, relating to Swarm, was the way that they introduced him and the way that he, so what did you think so he's been imprisoned on this planet, which is pretty much this desolate sort of asteroid looking thing at the minute, but he's in this prison, what seemed like an eternity, it feels like. Did you like the two division agents? The time agency or whatever agents that turn up? One of them was called K-Tosks and the other one was N-Sentak. They're there to check that he's still imprisoned okay and he's not up to anything. you could tell, couldn't you? The way that they built that scene up was that something bad was about to happen, like really bad. And it's almost like horror films. That to me was the scariest part of the episode. And they treat it like any horror film that you've seen that's to do with exorcisms. You always have this person that's chained up or tied up, and then when the priests are about to go in, one of them always says, never engage in conversation with them. You know, they're there to deceive you, and, you know, don't do that. So what happens? The person that gives the advice, she's the one that starts talking to him and so on. And that whole scene was really scary. That, for me, was the one bit that I've wanted in Doctor Who for so long, where I wanted all the kids to duck behind the sofa like, Mum, this is scary. And that bit where he takes her life, you know, whatever, and his face kind of explodes with all these crystals and stuff, and then they go back into his face, and then he appears younger and so on. He's kind of given himself a self-regeneration.
Renewed at last, he says.
Yeah. So did you like how he was, how he escaped and that whole scene? I thought that was brilliant, that bit.
Yeah, I agree. I did think it was brilliant. And like you said, it was a really good, what I'd call a classic Who horror moment. You know, the things that we've come to love from Doctor Who, that it throws in these scary moments that are just borderline, you know, family viewing, if you know what I mean. They're right on the edge of it. And yeah, because he looked like Pinhead for a second from the you know, those horror films, didn't he? When he was facing Hellraiser. Yeah. It's a great scene. It looked good as well. And it was, yeah, like you said, it was a proper jump scare moment. I thought it was really, really good. Yeah. And it really introduced him as like, you straight away, you know, you're not going to mess with this guy. This is a scare. It's not like Tim Shaw, who started off quite scary, ripping out people's teeth, quite scary, and then ended up on the floor being shot in the toe. This guy, I think, no, you're not going to mess with him. There's a good scene when he's with the doctor, isn't there, where she sort of recoils away from him when he's walking around her. He's creepy as anything. So yes, I did like that scene, and I think he's a good villain, whoever he is. I like him, or a monster, I don't know.
They were awesome, those scenes as well, when he almost like a psychic link to the Doctor.
That scene with those two is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, when he starts talking to the Doctor, saying, I know you, and walking around her, and she looks like really sort of creeped out by him. That looked absolutely beautiful, the CGI in it. Quite simple as well, wasn't it? Just colours and drops, raindrop, I don't know what. It just looked great. What did you think of the CGI, actually, overall? Not just that scene, but because a lot of people have said this, and I kind of agree in a way. I think some of it looked incredible, absolutely amazing. I think there was the odd bit that didn't look quite as good, but overall, I thought it looked beautiful, this episode. I know what people mean. There's the odd ropey bit, but I think you're going to get that. It's just part of it, but overall, I thought the CG was excellent.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's only so much you can do with the budget that they've got, but I think the ropiest bits for me was at the beginning when they're hanging off the hover.
I was going to say, strangely, I think it is the start, which you would want to be the best, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want the worst CGI at the beginning episode, so that is odd, but it still didn't look that bad. I just don't think it looked as good as other bits, but I did think that's a bit of a shame that was the bit that looked the worst.
Yeah, I don't think it looked bad, any of it.
It didn't look bad, no.
I'm no expert in visual effects, but I think when they're hanging off the hover bar and stuff like that, I think it's really difficult to create a sense of motion when they're being sort of, you know, dragged through the air and stuff like that. And I think that's reasonably difficult to do. So yeah, and that wasn't too bad. But the most of it though was really, it looked beautiful. Like the scene where she had that psychic connection with Swarm and that whole bit, and just the way it was colour graded as well looked really good. Like when the TARDIS lands outside Anfield football ground, that midnight sort of colour hues and stuff. They've really nailed just making it look everything like a simple street scene. They made it look very atmospheric, and there was a couple of scenes where I thought they'd gone a little bit J.J. Abrams-y, Star Trek-y, where every single light had a lens flare on it.
A flare.
Yeah, and everything, you know, so you can see that the people working on the visual effects side of things are having an absolute ball doing it. And they're really flexing their muscles a little bit. So it would be cool just to rein that in just a little bit. 'Cause it does look a bit Abramsy. But other than that, dude, it's the best it's ever looked in terms of effects and just color grading and clarity. It looks really good.
I think the problem is nowadays is we know how so much is done, don't we? We see so many behind the scenes things with green screen and stuff like that. So when we watch scenes like the very opening shots, we kind of know how it's done. We're almost seeing beyond what's on the screen, aren't we? We're like, oh, so they're on a green screen hanging out. And it's a shame, really, because there would have been a time when we'd have been watching that going, oh, wow, look at this. But we kind of know too much. You know too much, don't we? We know how everything's done these days. And it kind of takes away the magic a little bit, in a sense, you know, because you're sort of looking at it knowing exactly what's the technicalities of it, rather than looking at it thinking, oh, that looks nice. Oh, my God, the Doctor's upside down. What's going on? So I think that's the other thing, isn't it? We're just too aware of stuff like that now. I mean, back in the day with Doctor Who, you wouldn't have known how they put it together necessarily and did all the effects, would you? But we know everything now. But it looks good, mate. It did look good, I think. You know, it's had a bit of money thrown here for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I've got one more quick thing before the bigger thing. It won't take too long, but we've spoken about Swarm, the Angels, and some other characters. We can't forget the old potato heads. They're back, the Sontarrans. So this is all to do with the Flux, right? So the Flux, you know, has kind of rallied all of these things together, the Ravagers, the Sontarrans and Angels and stuff. So the character of, so we, you know, Strax is, you know, out the picture, and Karg and all those people. We've got new Sontarrans. So Kragar makes an appearance, who is played by Dan Starkey, of course.
Yes, that's right. That was funny.
He was the guy in the hologram, right? Who was reporting back. Yeah.
Yes. Who looked awful, apparently. He's like, you look terrible.
Yeah. So Sontarrans are back then, dude. And we said last week or the week before that we were hoping that they were not played in this comedic kind of way. They are a little bit still, I suppose, especially Kragar in this. But the other dude, what's his name? Ritzgor? Is it Ritzgor?
Ritzgor, yes. Yeah.
He seems to mean business. So I'm intrigued to see, and we'll definitely find out this Sunday in the War of Sontarrans episode what he's up to. But
forward to it.
Yeah, you like the Sontarrans in this one?
I did, and they were written as being comedic, but to me they got the line, the line between comedic and menacing just right, because I thought it was a great scene. I love the fact that Ritzgor was having a go at Kragar, saying "you look terrible" and all this sort of stuff, and the way that Ritzgor rejoiced in all the mayhem going on, and he was just loving the fact the universe was being eaten up. And I'm really liking the new Sontarrans. I like the look of them. I'm really liking the look of Ritzgor as a character. I feel like he's going to be fun, but he's also going to be menacing. So they weren't in it a lot, but it was a good scene, and it's really got me looking forward to next week. The Sontarran episode next week. I think there's great promise from him as a Sontarran character. Like I said, yes, written a little bit comedic, but they also have got the balance right, I think.
Yes.
You know, I didn't feel like they didn't come across as silly. In other words, they just came across as quite funny, but also quite dangerous. So yeah, loving those guys, mate.
Yes, no, I agree. Yeah, the line was done pretty well between the chemo and that. Yeah. What about little Diane though? Date night. She's meant to meet up with Dan.
Oh, Diane. She's now trapped in a Wookiee hole or wherever it is with those creepy guys. Bit strange, yeah.
Yeah, that was also creepy. That bit when she gets lured into the house. I mean, it's on one hand, it was the classic horror mistake. You know, the biggest problem with characters in horror films is curiosity. So she hears something, she approaches it. Any normal person would have been like, no way,
I'm out of here,
running the other direction. But obviously this is TV and film, so she obviously goes to investigate, and she gets trapped in that house. So we'll see what happens with Diane, but she's probably not happy with Dan because he missed date night, and then she gets trapped in the house. This is probably his fault.
Yeah, and also why arrange to meet on a creepy street corner like that, straight out of The Exorcist? Yeah, another intriguing character, and the fact that she's obviously playing a part in this. She's not just a side character; she's been lured to that spot by the creepy swarm guy and all that. So yeah, that was creepy as hell. There's as we're talking through this episode, mate, there is so much, isn't there? Like I'd completely forgotten about the big creepy house and her going into it and all that. It's quite mind-blowing, actually, the amount of stuff in this episode, yeah.
Yes, and then the last thing I just want to mention and get your thought on is the flux itself. So this is a big cataclysmic thing. So Carvanista describes it as a hurricane ripping through the structure of the universe. Obviously a big thing, right? A big, big threat. This is not something that the Doctor can just wave the Sonic at and... sort
that
it out.
Was waved around quite a bit again, wasn't it? But yes, not something she can mend with the Sonic.
Yeah. So this is obviously a real big thing. We're not just talking about some alien thing that wants to eat a planet, or the Daleks who want to remove a solar system or anything like that. This is completely eating away at the universe itself, and almost catches up with the Doctor, which is that awesome cliffhanger at the end. Nearly takes out Vinder. He manages to escape. And some of the other people, like we just said, the Sontarrans, they sort of relish in this destruction sort of thing. But what do you reckon to the flux itself then? Because initially I thought, this has obviously been created by Swarm. I'm not too sure on that, actually. But it's definitely a big threatening thing.
Yeah, and it does feel threatening. That's a good thing, I mean, they've built this series up as the Doctor going up against the biggest battle ever, and it's the end of the universe, which has been done quite a few times, but it still had good threat to it. There's a bit where the Doctor smashes the TARDIS console to let out some vortex energy, and it doesn't even make a dent in it.
That was cool,
so this bit. So this thing means business. And that came across in the episode, it wasn't just like, whatever, the flux, it was like, the flux is literally about to swallow everything up. This, how are they going to stop it? So yeah, it's the stakes are high. I think it's it's going to be good to see how this plays out. I'm intrigued by the flux, what it is, and who's created it, and what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's got a lot of similarities to the reality bomb that Davros makes.
Oh, yeah.
In the previous episode. So, that's food for thought as well.
There is so much food for thought. I'm so pleased we're at this state. I can't say it enough, mate. I'm so pleased that we're like really trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's got us excited again. It's it's been a couple of a long time coming. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope I'm saying the same by the end of the series. I know I keep backtracking on that. It's because I'm so worried. It's whenever I enjoy something so much as this, I just don't want it to fizzle out and be rubbish. This is a great opener,
Mm-hmm. And the very last thing, just very quickly, did you like Jodie's performance?
Yes, actually, I just wanted to quickly talk about Jodie and Yaz, really. Yes, I did like Jodie in it. I mean, I've struggled to connect with her Doctor. She just, because of the way she's written, she's so sort of hyper and bouncing off the walls, and it's like she's had 10 coffees every day before she starts with, and I don't think she's been written to be particularly strong. The screen presence has been massively missing from her Doctor for me. But I liked Jodie this episode. She's still the same, but I did pick up that they've not necessarily toned her down, because she's still coming out with the quirky one-liners, but she seems to work well with Yaz. The two of them work well together, and I didn't find myself getting irritated by her, which is what's happens a lot. So this is another reason I haven't gone back to a lot of episodes in series 11 and 12, because there are episodes I like, but even in those episodes, Jodie's Doctor gets on my nerves. Mm-hmm. So that's why I haven't gone back to rewatch them, because I get halfway through and I'm like, she's doing my head in, and I switch it off. This episode, the quirkiness is still there, but there were some good scenes. I love the stuff when she's on the spaceship and she's laying down the law to Carvanista, and she's seen this thing in the corner of her eye that she's, trying to ignore, but it's bugging her. I felt like she gave a good performance in this, and this is the other thing, that by the end of series 13, my God, I really want to like Jodie's Doctor, and I have been wanting to like her Doctor since she took the role. I was really excited when she got announced, and so disappointed in her performance and the way she was written. So I'm really hoping I'm not expecting a massive shift. I don't think I'm going to see any great standout moments from her like I did with Matt or Peter's Doctor, but I'm not expecting miracles, but I would like to just like and enjoy her Doctor by the end of the series. And I enjoyed her in this. I thought she was good. I thought she dealt with the comedy quite well as the serious stuff. And, you know, they've toned down the sort of silly faces and all that. And I think you said it, there wasn't enough time in this episode for her to deliver some of the scenes that we've had previously with her Doctor that just made me cringe, where she's going up and sticking her neck out and gurning all the time, and all this, you know, all the silly one-liners. Oh, I invented baseball bats, I did, and all this sort of stuff is just so forced. I think there was one line in this where she said something about playing football or something, but overall she was written better, and I think she's settled down just a notch, which I appreciated, and I liked her in it. And I just want to quickly talk about Yaz, because I thought they worked well together. I think Yaz has got the great potential as a companion. I think she's a good companion. But one thing I'm slightly worried about with Yaz is she's starting to get a bit naggy, and she's starting to get on my... No, I need to say something else. She's starting to get on my nerves a little bit, which I don't want, because I like Yaz as a character, but she keeps nagging the Doctor. And what I don't want is a Sixth Doctor and Perry scenario, you know, where she's just moaning every time she's in the TARDIS. Like, she did moan a lot in this episode, because even the Doctor loses her rag with her. She's like, sorry, Yaz, I thought I was showing you the universe, you know, because Yaz is like, nag, 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 Doctor, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Why would I do that, Doctor? And I'm thinking, I know they want to progress her character and they want to develop the character of Yaz, but don't do that by making her whiny and annoying, and that thing that they did with Perry and the Doctor and Perry, where she just nags him all the time and spends the whole time walking around behind him yapping and stuff. You know, develop her in a good way, in a strong way. So I'm a little bit worried about that, because everything I've seen in the trailers and in this episode points me towards the fact they're making Yaz a bit of a nagging nanny, and I'm just like, yeah, you know,
could
just
be.
ease off that a little bit, because I really like Yaz, and I don't want her to annoy me, and she did a little bit in this episode, which is why I was glad when the Doctor kind of puts her foot down, and that made me like Jodie's Doctor more, because I was like, yeah, tell Yaz to shut up, you don't owe her anything. So yeah, they need to tone that down a little bit for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you've said, dude, both for Jodie and for Yaz, Mandip's Mandip Girl. So I think you're absolutely right, she is a little bit whiny. A little bit, yeah. I think she's more consumed with why the Doctor's doing what she's doing, rather than what they're there to do. It's felt like.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, I thought Jodie was very cool. There was a couple of little one-liners, but they were not too bad. They were cool.
Yeah, wasn't enough to get annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it feels familiar. Like Jodie hasn't thought, I'm going to completely change how I play the Doctor, but it does feel like she's upped her game a wee bit. So we'll see again how that plays out and how she does over the rest of the series. But not many complaints for their performances, dude. Yeah.
No, not at all, mate. Yeah. No.
Okay, if there's nothing else on your notes, mate, we will put our scores on the doors.
Yes, the only thing I've got written down is Cloister Bell. just that, because I liked hearing the Cloister Bell. I just want to say how much I love the TARDIS door thing that's going on. You know, the TARDIS is all over the shop.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. I love it when we get stuff like that in Doctor 2. Like there's a TARDIS in the floor at the minute, isn't there? It's sort of halfway, it's like half materialized inside itself, and then there's doors halfway up the wall. There's gunk dripping from it, which reminds me of the Liberator breaking up in Blake 7. So I love that. I'm sure that's a little throwback to that. So I'm loving all that stuff. But those are the only two things I've got left on my notes, I think. Yeah. Okay, I could talk about this episode for a long, long time, to be honest. So we should probably put a pin in it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, when Series 13 is wrapped in 5 weeks' time, we're going to do a round table with our writers as well. So we'll have an opportunity to dig into the little bits that we haven't got time to talk about. But okay.
Can't wait for that. Yeah.
Scores on the doors. Whose turn is it to go first? I think it's you, bud.
I think it is me. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. A good, strong opener. I'm not going any more than that because it is a setup. The whole episode is about setting stuff up. We don't know where we're going with it, but as an episode, it just kept me really engaged, and it's got me really thinking, which I like. It's got me really trying to solve the mysteries. So it's a great opener, in my opinion. 8 out of 10.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to go with an 8.5.
Oh, a sneaky 0.5.
Sneaky one, yeah. I thought it was some of the best Who that we've seen did for the past couple of years, if I'm honest. I can't really bash it too much. The 0.5, I guess, taking it away from a perfect 10, is just because there's a few little niggles I've got, and I'm still not 100% convinced that Chibbers is going to deliver.
I'm worried about that.
On the epicness of it. I mean, so far, don't get me wrong, it is looking good.
Do me a favour, slam a 0.5 on mine. I agree with you. It is an 8.5. I can't enjoy something this much, and I can't go to a 9, but let's put a 0.5 on it. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's got that. It's definitely a strong episode. It's really good watch, and it's one that I can see myself rewatching quite happily as well, which I can't say the same for the previous 2 series. So that's something.
Definitely, mate. I agree.
Right, we had quite a few audio reviews in this week. We had 8 altogether, so thank you very much, guys. So let's plough through these then. So first up, Seb Lane.
Hello, Gary and Adam. So this week we are obviously reviewing the Halloween Apocalypse. It was definitely a ride, wasn't it? Well, I wasn't going in with very high expectations. I'm not the biggest fan of the Jodie era so far, but I thought it was enjoyable. However, I do think they definitely added too many plot points in this episode. There are about 7 or 8, and definitely way too much for one episode. I was struggling to get my head around it, and it's all a little bit chaotic. Hopefully it's all resolved in the next few chapters, which will hopefully make sense of this one a little bit more. But the Carvanista was good. I could see a spin-off with him, actually. He was quite cool. John Bishop was excellent. Yaz was pretty good in this as well, now that Graham and Ryan have gone, and the Doctor was still a little bit weird and cringy in some places, but hey ho. So yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't that great, but it was okay.
Oh, Seb.
5, Seb. Oh, you meanie.
5 from Seb. Okay, yeah, and Carvanista getting his own spin-off. That'd be pretty good, actually, because he was good. Yeah, thank you very much, Seb. A 5. Right, okay, we've got a newbie. This is Isaac Sigmar.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Isaac Sigmar here. What did I think of the Halloween Apocalypse? Well, I thought it was a really good episode. Definitely up there with 42 in terms of Chibnall's best episode. The big elephant in the room, obviously, is the Flux, the end of the universe approaching. I thought the CGI for that was really good, especially of the planets exploding and things. I thought it looked really, really good. I have a 4K telly, so I watched it on there, and it looked absolutely amazing. I'm glad they're doing this whole series in 4K. The Dan, John Bishop's character, was really, really good. I really liked that. I also like that they hark back to the Division and sort of tied it up with the time with children and everything, and why they're going to see the Carvan Chingy Boom, whatever it's called. I also liked Prisoner Swarm. I think that's really good, and all those sort of moments are really good. And speaking of which, Jodie and Mandip were really good. I didn't really like their arguing. It kind of annoyed me that they were arguing so much and you're hiding something. It really annoyed me. Although, I suppose it does hark back to Series 8 where, they were just lying to each other, the Doctor and Clara, which, it's kind of nice to hark back to that. But anyway, that's the end of my review. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of the episode.
Thank you very much, Isaac.
Thank you, Isaac. And yes, you've picked up on the arguing thing too. Yeah, it's all right to have a little bit of that, but we don't want constant bickering. So I agree with you. I just hope they tone that down.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, defo. Thank you very much, Isaac. Moving on, this is another newbie. This is Brian Chapman, who's actually very active on our Discord server. So let's see what Brian thinks.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian Chapman from a two-stoplight town with a review of the Halloween Apocalypse, the first chapter of Series 13. The Doctor meets an old foe in Swarm, yet has no memory of their previous engagement. With so much going on, what with new companions, new species, new characters, old enemies, and a new threat to the universe's very existence, I find it hard to fault even a Time Lord for not remembering. During the first part of the episode, the rush of characters, scenes, and setups came very close to being too much to take in. But as this opening chapter started to focus on the Doctor, Yaz, Dan, Carvanista, and Lupari versus Swarm and the Flux, a scary, action-filled, and funny story started to unfold, leaving me looking forward to next Sunday. I give it 8 dust bunnies in Dan's kitchen cupboard out of 10. Bye, y'all.
Excellent.
An 8 from Brian.
Yes, good
Not a
score.
bad score at all. Yeah. Yeah, that was funny when Dan was yelling at Carvanister.
Yeah, I'm not your human. That's brilliant.
Yeah. I'll see in my kitchen in a minute. Yeah, that's all good stuff. Thank you very much, Brian. An 8 out of 10. Moving on, this is Mr. Neil Campbell.
What about you fellas? So diving straight in, there's a lot to digest in this story. There was a lot going on. I think it's one of them ones, if you didn't have your finger on the pulse, you'd be quickly left behind. A new companion, new villains, new monsters. There's a lot to talk about. The new villain, he and she look intimidating, I have to say. They're clearly going to revisit the Timeless Child arc with this whole division and all that's been mentioned so far, so we'll see what happens there. I like the introduction of Dan. John Bishop put in a good performance. And I like the references to the past, with regards to Nitro 9 and whatnot. The introduction of Vinder as well. We'll see what he gets up to. And there were some pretty cool visuals as well in space. The episode was pretty fast. Like I said, there's a lot going on. I enjoyed it, I have to say. I did enjoy it. I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Now, I've been to Liverpool plenty of times because I'm a massive Arsenal fan. And I've been to Anfield quite a few times to see Arsenal play Liverpool. And Anfield is an iconic stadium. So I have to say, I thought the shot of the TARDIS materialising outside Anfield was pretty cool. So, yeah, fair play. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Cheers.
7. Yeah, nice score, Neil. Yeah, and it was, a lot of things had happened quite quickly throughout the first part, which is good. And obviously, yeah, we mentioned the whole Anfield thing and how cool that looked. A typical night shot landing outside Anfield, that could have looked really bland, but it may look very cool. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one, Neil. Yeah, very cool. 7, solid 7. Moving on, Lewis Palmer.
Hello to the Boogie Box podcast. Flux has begun, and Chapter 1, The Halloween Apocalypse. I had a really fun time with this, I'm not going to lie. It is flawed and crammed and does have the sort of Chibnall problems of sort of awkward dialogue and unnatural exposition. But I just thought it was, if you're going to chuck everything at the wall, you might as well do it violently. And that's what this did. And yeah, so many questions. I just feel really excited about Doctor Who again and just like, where's this going to go? Really fun. The monsters were cool. It's a real who's who of monsters. Perfect Halloween, really. And the stakes, absolutely massive. Really insanely massive. And I cannot wait to see where it all goes. Yeah, sign me up. I'm on board for Flux. And yeah, it's just really nice to be really positive about Doctor Who. Yeah, really good. See you next time, guys.
Lewis likes this one.
Yes, I think a lot of people are feeling on this, mate. It has rejuvenated a lot of excitement in fans like myself and Lewis, where it was seriously lacking. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Lewis. It's it does get you back into it, especially for people like us that have kind of certainly not drifted away, but just not really been engaged very much with the past couple of series. So, yeah, agree with you there, dude. Thank you very much. Right, moving on, Mr. Joe Turner.
So, episode 1 of Doctor Who Flux has just aired, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I thought the cold open was a really cool way to start the episode. John Bishop was fantastic as Dan, and the humour hit most of the time. Yaz and the Doctor were great together. I kind of wanted to see more with just the two of them. Yaz herself was absolutely outstanding in this episode. I think this might be her best story yet. She seems to have really grown as a character. However, I do feel like at times it was the Yaz show. She was giving me slight Clara vibes. However, in saying that, I love how she's questioning the Doctor about what she's investigating behind her back, and as a result, straining the relationship. Jodie was good in this story too. I felt as the story went on, her performance got stronger and stronger and stronger as the stakes got higher. She gets more serious and she suits serious. However, the Carvanista's design I'm not overly struck on. I think the body armour is cool as well as the weapon, but the mask for me looks a little bit cheap and rushed. Visually, the episode was stunning. It was good to see Jacob Anderson as Vinder, and the episode ending with a big apocalypse kind of thing with the flux felt high stakes and actually real, because Doctor Who usually does this thing where it goes, oh, it's the end of the universe, but this time it was actually impactful and huge in scale. The bit when the flux was seeping through the universe, destroying planet after planet, was breathtaking. We even got to see some inhabitants of one planet trying to escape. However, the resolution was slightly rushed. Seeing the Sontarrans again was great, and the Swarm was sinister and wonderfully played. I want to know more about them, as I feel it ties ties in with the Doctor's previous lives and the Timeless Child. The way they kept using a psychic connection too between the Swarm and the Doctor was an effective way to tell the story, and I loved how at the end they cut between all the characters we had seen in the episode, even the guys from Victoria and Liverpool, and I love the way they're setting up all these different storylines. So much as they were so little time, I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10. It sets up the series really well. However, for me, the dialogue was a little bit clunky, there was a lot going on, but for me, it's Jodie's best season opener. Well done, Chibnall.
Phew.
8. Phew, yeah. You could tell Joe was against the stop clock there, thinking, I've got to get this in under 2 minutes. I've got to do it.
Yeah, that was a speed run through all of your...
There is a lot to say.
Your thoughts, yeah. Yeah, as Adam said, there's a lot to go through, so we can't blame you for that. But yeah, good score, 8. So you made some great points as well, Joe. Yeah. Awkward dialogue? Wee little bit. Nothing too bad, though. Yeah, nothing too bad. We're not talking George Lucas, Attack of the Clones awkward. So anyway, moving on. This is another newbie, Sean Picard.
Hi, my name's Sean. I just wanted to give my view of the overall episode of the Halloween Apocalypse Doctor Who Flux. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really well orchestrated. Sorry if I've said that wrong or pronounced that wrong. I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. I loved the Weeping Angels return as well as the Sontarrans, and I'm glad that we're getting more connections to the Division. I really hope that this might set up possibly Omega's return, but overall I think it's a really good episode and it deserves a lot of respect. My overall rating of this episode out of 10 is 9 out of 10. Thank you.
Wow, 9.
A 9 out of 10, strong score. And yes, now you and Gary have put Omega in my head. I'm coming round to thinking, that could be. It could be.
It could be. You never know. With the Chibinator. Yeah, but thank you very much, Sean. A nice review and a good score as well. And lastly, this is Mr. Toby Coleman.
Well, Doctor Who is back, and it's back with a bang. Doctor Who had the Halloween Apocalypse. I really enjoyed this episode, but it also left me really confused. There's just so much going on. What does a bit with Liverpool in 1820 have to do with the stuff that's happening in current day Liverpool? I also got really confused with the two ladies. There was Claire and the girl, I can't remember her name. I got them two mixed up several times, so I thought that the Weepy Angel scene, that was good. But the girl who got that back to my Weepy Angel, I thought she was then dragged into a house, but I found that's a different woman. Also, I will say that that as much as there's some brilliant CGI in the episode, the budget clearly didn't go to the dog-like creature. Overall, I won't give this a score yet. I'll give the series a score. I'd say it was a good episode that was very much a cross between Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy. Bye.
Budget on the poor old dog-like creature.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's a cross between Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, actually, I can see that.
Can see a little bit of that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Toby, and to all of our audio reviewers for sending in your clips of some really strong scores there. Apart from, who was it? Somebody had a 5. Not too keen. Was it Lewis?
Seb, wasn't it?
Or Seb. Oh, Seb, yeah.
No, Lewis loved it.
Lewis loved it, yeah, sorry. Yeah, but thank you very much anyway. Over on the socials, I'm going to rattle through these really quickly. Over on Twitter, Tin and Sonic said fast pace with lots of setup. I think I came out of it satisfied, but equally haven't got a clue what's going on. But that's me needing to adjust to the 6-part story and not expecting a Monster of the Week format. So if it's as fast paced throughout, it should be fun. 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Dan Johnson says, such a visually beautiful and explosive start. I fear that they are trying too much, though. Moving from setup to setup, I suppose we will just have to see how it pans out. Chippy T says, Yaz learned a lot technically, recognises that the Doctor lies or is not transparent, is brave, likes a challenge, loved the Doctor, but to me, not the way some people are saying, ready for her own adventures out there. Great episode, 8.5.
Cool.
Our writer Jordan says, I enjoyed it, certainly the strongest opening for a Chibnall series, but there was little too much going on. I'm looking forward to seeing how the series will progress and explain what was going on. Jodie and Mandip were great, and John Bishop was quite good too.
Cheers, Jordan.
Titan Sci-Fi Tom says, a good introduction to many, many stories. Can't wait for it all to come together. A 9 out of 10. Love Carvanista. The Courier of Who says, I would say the best opening to a series ever. Most certainly top 3, along with the 11th Hour and Day of the Moon for me. Strong 8.5. Very excited.
Cool.
It's HardestNet. Will Sanger says, I'm away most of the week and won't have time to send an audio clip, but I will say it was okay. Just kind of existed, really. The dynamics and dialogue was better, but was very over-cluttered, and all the various plot elements had no relevance to each other at this point, so I'll wait until all 6 episodes have concluded before I put a rating on it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Doctor Who Home says, a return to the Doctor Who I love. I felt like it let go of any of the baggage we carried from previous stories and focused on being Doctor Who again. Dan was immediately likeable. The swarm seems intimidating, and there was lots of nice nuggets of setup. Possibly too much, though, in brackets. 7.5.
7.5, okay.
Jessica at Awesome Jess says, it was a brilliant episode. Loved all the fast-paced action. Really liked the addition of Dan. Can't wait to learn more about his past. I give it 8 Lupari out of 10. And lastly, Matt Holder, I found the new episode to be very dark in tone, and parts were pretty shocking considering the early time slot. I felt the CGI in the gravity bar scene was pretty shocking. Overall, I'd give the episode 8 out of 10, and I'm intrigued to see where the story arc takes us.
I wish it was on a bit later. I must admit, 7 o'clock really would be good, but
yeah.
Hey.
I'm not sure about this Sunday, but we know that episode 3, the week after, is on at 6:30, so we assume that it's going to be around 25.
I think, 6:10 or something weird this week, yeah.
In the UK, anyway, yeah. And then quickly over on Facebook, these are quite long, so I'm just going to give you the scores. Andrew Stewart gave it an 8.5. Mark Hugel gave it a 5 out of 10. Charlie Turner didn't give it a score. And our writer, Harry, just said best episode of Who in a long time. Gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. So all around, dude, some really strong scores to kick off Series 13.
Absolutely. And although we don't always have time to read out the full comments and stuff, we do read them. So we do appreciate you commenting on the Facebook and Twitter. It's always good to get your guys' opinions.
Indeedy. Yeah, absolutely.
And it
right.
seems pretty positive on this one.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's a good start, definitely.
It is a good start, mate. Yes.
Yeah. No surprise what we're doing next week, though, dude. What we got?
Yeah, God, I'm really excited for this. The CGI, the battle looks immense, doesn't it? Gosh. So War of the Sontarrans next week. I think this is going to be fun. I've got a good feeling. Oh, no, I've got my hopes up.
Oh, you've said it now.
No, I have. I've got a good feeling because I really liked that scene with the Sontarrans, and the trailer looks fun and it looks epic. Yeah, so War of the Sontarrans. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Bring it on. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
And on that note, let's wrap there, dude, then for 3:30.
All righty.
Thank you for listening to episode 330 as we've spoken through a little bit of news and crashed through our review of the first episode of Series 13, the Halloween Apocalypse. As Adam said, we are continuing, obviously, as we go through Series 13. Next week, episode 2 is War of the Sontarrans, which sounds exciting, intriguing at the same time. So we'll see how that plays out, and our review will be next week as usual for that one. In the meantime, as always, remember to follow our show on whatever podcast app you listen to your podcast on. Just do a search for us. Do a search for the Big Blue Box. We're on all of the big ones: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, all that stuff are on there. Or head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to the episodes there as well. Plus, you can link off to the socials and give us a like and a follow there so we can chat Doctor Who with you throughout the week. And we have a free Discord server. So sign up to that and come and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. And as always, remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
That's right, yes. Go and have a look at all my Doctor Who vids, and there's some new ones coming up. So yeah, go and check it out. Also on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Love all that stuff.
Yes, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Go and annoy Adam on Twitter and Instagram and chat Doctor Who. It's all good. So until next week, bud, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember... Allons-y.